Do your neighbors hate that you're an Airbnb host?
Do you get that like pit in your stomach, worried the next time a guest is gonna check in is gonna be the time that the neighbor complains to the city, or you get that phone call and things are gonna get awkward?
Well, listen, you are not alone.
No.
Today, we are sharing how to keep the peace, avoid complaints, and what to do if things do get a little weird.
Hi, I'm Sarah Karakayan.
And I'm Annette Grant. And together we are
Thanks for visiting.
We've been hosting for well over a decade, welcomed tens of thousands of guests, and earned thousands of 5-star reviews.
Our portfolio continues to bring in over 1.5 million year over year, and supported not only by the industry's leading brands, but also some of the biggest media outlets.
And we're here to help you with your furnished rental.
Let's dissect why relationships with our neighbors matter. And this is for anyone, whether you're in a metro location or a more rural location, you should still get to know the people that are around your property. Because you have to remember, your short-term rental is your business, but your business could be smack dab in the middle of a community.
It most likely is. And it's not just the community, that's where people are raising their kids. They've made the largest investment of their lives. They are woven into the fabric of the everyday life in their neighborhood, their community, and so are you. That's why you're opening your doors to guests to welcome them to your amazing community.
And you know how you get worried about getting bad guests, right? You're like, well, what if they party? What if they bring something into the home or someone in the home who is doing illegal activity? That worries you. It worries your neighbors as well. Like, they've also read the same articles you've read about parties, trash piling up, people parking everywhere. So we here at Thanks for Visiting teach and encourage hosts to just, as one mentor taught me, eat the frog. Go meet your neighbor. Honestly, if you can do it before you purchase the property and just be on the up and up, gone are the days where you can try to like fly under the radar. You want your neighbors to completely buy into the fact that you are going to keep your property in tip-top shape, that you are going to have incredible guests that are going to use their money at local businesses and actually be an asset to the area, and how you are just one call or text away if there's any questions that they might have about the guests that are staying in your rental.
Let's get into setting expectations with your neighbors. Again, it's a simple introduction. Old school, you go knock on their door, you introduce yourself. The way that Sarah and I love to do it is right away introduce who we are, the property that we just purchased, and start the conversation. And the conversation is being transparent about what's gonna happen, but right out of the gate, exchanging phone numbers, letting them know you're gonna be a present host, exchanging emails. Like, that right there, to me, when someone is like, I want you to have my personal phone number, you have your cell phone out, like right there, to me, it just brings down so many barriers of like, they are giving me the direct route to them. And I literally will tell people like, put your number in my phone. I make sure I text them right then so they have my information. Also get their email. Sometimes I even give them alternative number if I already know, like if it's me and Sarah, I could give them Sarah's number also. If I already know who my cleaner is, I will give them that number. But that's the first thing, is just introduction, breaking down the barriers, and then really starting to let them know why our intentions behind the property, and if they have any concerns, answering those concerns.
I call it the pink elephant in the room too right away. The reason I'm introducing you to is I am your neighbor. While I'm not going to be living here, it is going to be a furnished short-term rental. It is being responsibly hosted. And I know, like me, you have heard of horror stories in short-term rentals. And I want to assure you that is 1% of most guests. I've been doing this for a while, or you can say I've been doing a lot of research. I know, and we're going to get into how you can ensure them different ways that you have built boundaries to the kind of guests that you're going to have in the property. But just call the elephant out. I know you might be worried. And if you are, here are the things that I've done to make sure that you're still going to be able to live in your home in peace, and that our rental is going to be an asset to the neighborhood.
And what I like to do immediately is ask them, have you stayed in short-term rentals, vacation rentals before? What's been your best experience? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I've been a guest in a short-term rental. And they tell us, oh yeah, I go to XYZ beach every summer with my family. And so you start to build that of like, they see themselves as a guest in the home and they start to relate to it. And the cherry on top of all of it is I like to always invite them to invite their friends or family to use it. You've got friends coming to town, maybe an overflow, or maybe it's the in-laws that you don't want right next to you, or a brother and sister or something like that. Let them know that the home that you are happy to rent it to them also. That's where I would really help with any sort of discounts, priority, things like that. Let them know that it can be an advantage for them also.
All right, so we have to make honest hosts out of you right now. You do have to have a system for making sure the guests that stay in your rental are great fits for your rental and that area.
Yeah, you can't be blowing smoke to these neighbors.
No.
Actually, it's kind of like one of those things, I didn't even think we had to say that. Like, what you say to your neighbor, you need to have the utmost integrity with these words, okay? So if you are going to give the cell phone and say you can call me anytime,
pick up when they call.
Honor that. If you say they can stay there, you've got to honor that. If they ask some questions about how you're going to host the property, you've got to have integrity here.
But let's talk about, guest vetting. And Annette and I struggle with the word vet because we don't want you to get the idea that we are being discriminatory in any way. What it is like a guest matching process. But
alignment.
Guest alignment process.
Property alignment, if you will.
Sure. So you need to make sure that not only is the neighbor going to be happy with the guest who's coming in, but that the guest is going to be happy with the house they're coming into. Mm-hmm. So having that in your listing description, right? Like, for example, Annette and I own a townhome together. So we are attached to two townhomes on the left and two townhomes on the right, and we are smack dab in the middle. So, and you can sometimes hear the neighbors next door. They've got a really cute gaggle of pugs. You can sometimes hear the pugs run around the home. On the other side, we have a neighbor who is sometimes outside smoking on his front porch. He's allowed to. It's his front porch. He can smoke on his front porch, right? So, but we want to make sure that the guest who finds our interior or pictures of our property, they love it, but are they going to be a good fit? Because let's say they want to host a bunch of friends over and our dining room seats 4 people. So make sure that the home is a good fit for the guest and that the guest is a good fit for the home. There's also things that you can do. I discourage you from assuming just because they haven't been positively reviewed on Airbnb before that they're not going to be good guests, but they might need educated on how to be good guests. So I don't think it's a hard no, or that you're doing a good job with guest alignment if they haven't been reviewed or have never used Airbnb before. I don't want you to discount them, but I do think that you should take the opportunity to educate them on how to be a good guest, or hey, I want to make sure you understand that this home is a townhome and we do have neighbors attached to us on either side. So this is a great fit for guests who are going to be in the home and are going to enjoy the home, but enjoy it quietly. And a lot of the interaction you have with other human beings during your trip is going to be, off-site or something like that, those kind of conversations. And if you have Instant Book on, I still encourage you to pay attention to who booked.
Absolutely.
And manually go back and have a conversation with that, because you know that we promote Instant Book. You actually have more flexibility and you will make more money if you have Instant Book turned on. But a lot of hosts think they don't have the opportunity to continue vetting their guests, and you do.
Yeah, they lose all control.
No, you do have we teach our teams, hey, if an Instant Book comes through, reservation comes through, still go to that guest profile, still look at the conversation that they've maybe had with our automated messages, and make sure you have enough information to be very confident that the home is a good fit for them. And if they haven't said anything to your automated message, engage in a manual conversation with them or pick up the phone and call them. Airbnb does give us their phone number. You can do these things after they book, and if you find there's misalignment because they instant booked, you can suggest to them that, hey, I don't think this home is a good fit for you.
With all of this, of course, you have to have it backed up with your house rules. So we can talk about noise, we can talk about no local guests, where to park, where not to park. Everything needs to be laid out in the house rules, not in all caps. Don't be doing we're not yelling. These, and I don't even, ask Sarah, I don't even like the word rules in my life, period, but this is a place to set expectations and boundaries, okay?
Do you like boundaries?
I do.
Okay.
Expectations. But I think this is the place that what we were saying, when you are seeing if that guest in his alignment, you can back it up and say why. Because in our house rules, X, Y, Z, these are the quiet hours. These, we need to be excellent neighbors. We need to respect those. We need to respect the parking. All of the things that you've listed that are important to you as a host, maybe your HOA, your community. They need to be outlined there, so you can back that up again. Because this is not any sort of discrimination in any way, shape, or form. We need to make sure that the property is in alignment with you as the host, for the guest in the property, and also the neighborhood.
Which is why I just want to make sure you got that out of Annette's message here. The reason why house rules and complete and clear house rules are so important are so that guest, if you tell them it's not a good fit, they can never, or if they do say, hey, I feel like I'm being wrongly discriminated against, you always can go back to those house rules and say, I am so sorry you feel that way, but I want to point out that in our house rules, which everyone sees, that we don't think it's a good fit because of X, Y, Z as outlined in the house rules. So these house rules really protect you as the host, and you might think that guests don't read them, and some don't. But I'm telling you,
But they're there.
the incredible track record we've had over a decade plus of hosting short-term rentals, the one thing that makes us different from the hosts who don't have good track records is that our house rules are dialed in, they are complete, they are clear, and they are everywhere, right? And we aren't yelling to the customer. I'm going to call them a customer right now, not just guest, right? We're not yelling at them. We are just making sure, like, we want you to have a great stay. And if having, the house allows 4 people and you want to have a dinner party, I love that for you, but you're not going to have fun because we only have enough chairs for this, and quiet hours in the city start at 8 p.m. And you know what I'm saying? So I want you to, we actually have a video all about
check out that
house
video.
rules.
It'll take care of you.
Because you can literally steal our house rules, copy and paste, zhuzh them so they make sense for your property. But definitely check out that video because it's going to be a game changer for your property.
So TFE pro tip here. The 3 biggest complaints from neighbors are noise, trash, and parking. So make sure your parking is clearly defined. You can even put pictures and show them exactly where. Trash, you gotta be on top of it, okay? Make sure that you know when it's being picked up, your turnover team knows when it needs to be out. And then also noise. We see so many hosts that wait until there's a noise complaint. You can get ahead of this. There are noise monitors that are completely above board. They're just monitoring decibels. And these noise devices are highly, highly sensitive in a good way. And they can actually message the guest for you. There's automations built in letting them know. And that's where you do want to put in the house rules that you do have a noise monitoring device in your home. But we see way too many hosts get a noise complaint with either the city or just the neighbor. And they do it when it's too late. So do this ahead of time. It is a small monthly subscription and definitely worth it.
All right, so here's a really creative way. You may not have thought about it in this way. But to be good neighbors to your neighbor, make sure that you're prepping your guest to understand who their neighbors are going to be for the time in the property. And here's what I mean by that. So if we talked about our one neighbor who sits on his front porch, quietly smokes cigarettes. He doesn't say a lot. And he kind of has this face that's very serious when he's smoking. And if you don't know who he is and how kind he actually is, because he's been such a good neighbor too.
Yeah, I've got him in my phone. I'd call him right now.
Annette and me. But we do let our guests know who our neighbors are and what they can expect. If you see our neighbor to the right on his front porch, you'll see that he likes to enjoy his cigarettes out there. He won't say a lot to you, if anything at all, but he's been a long-time owner, and he's a really great neighbor to have.
Or if you hear the pugs come out early in the morning and you might hear a bark or two, or just a door open, just letting them know, making them aware of it.
Before they arrive, so when you send them their arrival, things to expect when they arrive, how to get there, how to find the property, you might have, if this is something, I'm not saying you do this every single time, but especially because we have this townhome and they might interact with our neighbors, having little asterisks that say, we want you to be aware of who our neighbors are, and so that you're not put off by a man quietly smoking on his front porch and doesn't look at you or talk to you, but that's just how he is.
This might not even be applicable to you at all, so no big deal. Or you might, we have neighbors with a lot of kids, so you're going to hear them out in the front. Just making people aware. It's clarity is kindness, so being very clear on what to anticipate. And again, you might live in a neighborhood or have a property that this is not even anything
Yeah.
that don't go searching for things to like bring up. But if you start to notice things, you know when you're at your property what's going on, or maybe especially if other guests have mentioned it, that's really when you want to bring it up, because you know you might not be there as often as your guests. So you really need to pay attention to what the questions they're asking. And it might not just be about the neighbor. It might be about something else in the neighborhood. Hey, what goes on at that shop down there, or what goes on at that club down there, or what goes on in that parking lot? You know, we all know that there's different neighborhoods, there's different things going on. So just be aware of that. It might not always just be the neighbors. It might be other things in your neighborhood.
Just don't hide it. Don't let the guests, if you know it's going to be a problem, then cross your fingers. They're not going to message you about it.
Right.
I think that's the message you're trying to get across to you right here.
We got to be honest. There might be some difficult interactions with your neighbor. So we need to prepare you on what to do if and potentially when that happens.
Let's say friction is occasional, right? Like maybe they reached out to you once and they said, hey, last weekend your guests were really loud until the wee hours of the night, and you're frustrated because your neighbor didn't reach out to you, but you know they were trying to sleep and they're not thinking about grabbing their phone and texting you. Some neighbors are, right? They are texting you at 2 a.m. and you're asleep and you're not answering your phone, okay? So listen to them. First of all, do not be defensive. Listen to them first. Repeat what they said to you. And what this does is it ensures your neighbor that you are listening to them and you have digested what they've said to you. And then apologize and then give them a solution. What are you going to do different than you have before? And share that with them so that they can be comforted that you are going to do something about it.
And you can even, so let's say it's either the guest messaging, you can provide that with them, like say, I've altered my messaging, here's what it says. Maybe it's additional landscaping, maybe it's a different fence, maybe it's soundproofing something. So you let them know, show them the action that you're taking. Just a side note here, the noise monitors that we were talking about earlier, some brands also come with an outdoor monitor too, because we do see that outside noise can get you in trouble as a host also, especially if people are out enjoying a hot tub or just, you know, any of those wonderful outdoor amenities that you have available for your guests.
And don't stop there, right? In that conversation where you've listened to them, you've re-said what they said to you, apologize, and then offer a solution. And then what I want you to do is follow up after the next guest day, maybe like 2 guest days after that, and maybe send them a little something. Maybe it's a gift card to a favorite local restaurant or just a handwritten card, again, reiterating that you're so sorry that that interaction happened. You know what I mean? Go above and beyond. Surprise and delight your neighbor. Offer that hospitality that you offer your guest to your community too, if there is that friction there.
And guess what? Sarah and I have both in our history of hosts had neighbors that literally they did not, at some point in time, we did all of this. We did the texting, we did the nicey nice, we did all of the things, and it finally just came to this, like, they did not want us there. And so that is where you can offer to do everything that you can, and then that is when you're gonna wanna review like local ordinance, know your STR rights, because sometimes it's just gonna have to be it is your property and you can use it the way you want. Again, that depends on what your STR guidelines are in your area, but we want to be really realistic. There might be a time when a neighbor just downright does not want you there, and we're going to give you a specific scenario.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. Let's tell you a story of a 4-unit condo building, and I was managing the first floor unit, and the upstairs neighbor just did not want us there.
Upstairs, by the way, because you know normally if you're underneath, you're hearing the footsteps, not the first floor.
And we didn't play that game where it's a 1-bedroom where we allowed 4 people stay. No, 2 people were allowed to stay in this. We didn't have a sleeper sofa in the living room. And mind you, the other 2 units on the other side of the building, we never heard a peep from them about how disruptive our guests were. And it seemed like every single stay was upsetting our upstairs neighbor. So I got the privacy safe noise monitoring system and I told him that I did. And I told him how it worked. I even gave him the website. Here's what I got, what it'll do. I set this threshold. It'll notify me and the guest if they exceed this threshold. So you really shouldn't hear anything.
Because his only complaint that he could come up with was noise every single time.
Every single time.
The property was beautiful, like trash was being taken care of, everybody knew where they were parking. So the only thing he could think that people wouldn't know about is just they're being noisy.
Right. And one time, the city actually reached out to me, and I have a good relationship with the person in charge of licensing in the city of Columbus. And she reached out to me, she goes, I've gotten 2 complaints now from a neighbor at this building, and if I get another complaint, I'm going to have to revoke your license. And I said, tell you what, I've actually installed a noise monitoring device. If I can prove to you via data that our guests have never broached the threshold of being too noisy, would you support me and that I am upholding what I've said I'm doing as a license holder for short-term rental? She goes, absolutely. So I went into my noise monitor's dashboard, printed out the past month of data, sent it to her, and she had all the proof she needed. It was on, it was monitoring, and it did not broach decibel level. And then I got firm with that upstairs neighbor. I said, I know that you reached out to the city regarding our unit. I am not happy that you are being dishonest with how we manage this property. I also brought out my accolades, and I shared with him our 5-star reviews, not only amongst our guests, but also on Google, and how neighbors have plenty of opportunity to leave us a review about how our management style is. And then I shared with the city the data from the noise detector that I told you about, and it's detecting no noise. You don't want me here, and I understand that, but I am being a good neighbor to you. So unless there's anything else you can come up with, I don't want to hear about this again. And that was it.
Girl.
It was because at that point, like,
have any
I have to stand my ground. Yeah.
And the actual owner of this property, they use their property quite often too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't 100% short-term rental.
No.
They were in it using it along with the guest.
Something to remember is that your neighbor, or your guest for that matter, anyone in your life, right? Like, their attitude in that moment or about that situation isn't always about you. Something else could be going on in their life, and they are kind of projecting what's happening there on this really easy target. Mm-hmm. So while we can't control them and how they respond to the situation, you are responsible for how you respond. So while I did stand firm with that neighbor, I still remained professional. I did not lose my temper. I did not put them down. I provided data, and I made sure I had the city on my side, that I was doing everything I could to be a law-abiding citizen. So even when you feel heated and you feel really attacked or just hurt, you still have to have those feelings.
You will take it personally.
In your pillow, have those feelings to your partner, whatever you need to do. But when you're showing up in that moment and you're having to confront, whether it's a guest, a neighbor, whomever in your life, just know that your reputation is always going to follow you around. So to be as confident and calm and as prepared as you possibly can.
And it doesn't matter what type of real estate you own. No. It could be your permanent residence, you could have a neighbor issue. If you're a midterm rental, you could have a neighbor issue. If you're a long-term rental, you could have a neighbor issue. So these aren't just siloed into short-term rentals. When we live in communities, and if you don't want to have any neighbor issues at all, then you need to go get a couple 100 acres and make sure no one's in sight. So that's really the only way to absolve yourself from any sort of neighbor issues in real estate, period. In conclusion, clarity is kindness, transparency is a must. And I want to share, you've been following us for a while, you know that Sarah and I met at a city council meeting because they wanted to shut down short-term rentals in our area. So you need to show up if ever need be. You need to show up beforehand. You need to show up as a good neighbor, because it's not just about your property, it's about all of us together. Mm-hmm. Every interaction with a guest, every interaction with a neighbor, it matters to the short-term rental world, everywhere, worldwide. So know that it's important, it matters, and we're glad that you're watching this video so you can take action.
So why don't you let us know in the comments below, do you have a situation with a neighbor? Do you have any questions about how to address a certain situation? Let us help you, and have your fellow hosts in those comments help you. Plus, remember that video we want you to watch all about how to snag our house rules. Of course, you want to make them your own. But with that, I am Sarah Karakayan.
I'm Annette Grant, and together we are
Thanks for visiting.